thing I found really fascinating with people who are talking about their whys, right? It's a very as an entrepreneur, you realize that the purpose is central to what you do, and why many times is a very strong role of basically in understanding your purpose. So walk us through your journey of finding your why. Like why is what is the seed? What is seeding your passion for understanding your whys and helping people understand theirs?
Exactly. Yeah. So the secret to understanding your why or your purpose and also harnessing your passion is actually to really look at who you were as a young person. So as a young person, in addition to being, an inventor and always trying to create things and invent stuff, no matter how crazy it seemed, and wanting to live on the moon, I also was raised by two parents who had devoted their life to helping the homeless and running homeless shelters. So there's an innate practical teaching that was given to me that I lived out as a young person. It was difficult for me to figure out how to marry that with my life now because I didn't believe I was supposed to be in that type of mission, if you will. But it does come down to mission. Each one of us has to identify what our personal mission statement is. So it took me writing The Art of Why to actually fulfill the first parts of my purpose, I would say, as an adult, because when I became an adult, there were different reasons that I didn't feel like I was supposed to be doing what my parents were doing.
Hmm.
But I knew I needed to be doing more than just serving myself. And so I had to really seek out that journey. And for a long time, I gave up on it. I mean, that's my 20s and my journey with addiction and a lot of that stuff and just chasing money in the finance world. That was all about kind of running away from my passion and my purpose. And then as I grew back into that, I realized that like the only thing that is truly deeply meaningful and fulfilling for me and long lasting was the things I was doing to really help others. And yeah, of course I want to help clients and you want to be a servant for clients, but clients are paying you money. And so I wanted something deeper than that. I needed to have a purpose and passion that went beyond just I'm going to be really great value add to my client, which there's nothing wrong with, but that's still not going to is not enough, I believe, for the full uh, purpose of our life as humans. That's just something that we do as part of it. So yeah, for me, that's kind of where I had this burning desire to fulfill a why. And it wasn't until I actually wrote The Art of Why that I started to fulfill it by working the steps in the book. The book itself is part of that. I give back to a lot of entrepreneurs that are in third world countries through microfinance with the efforts from the book and the money from the book. So there were a lot of things that I kind of put inside of that whole thing to help me fulfill my own why through this. And now I teach other people how to do the same by utilizing the steps from the School of Why and figuring out how that pertains to their individual journey.
Fascinating. And from your vantage point, talking to various entrepreneurs or helping various clients understand their why, what have you seen are some of the very common mistakes or common commonalities that you find across the board that businesses or leaders or entrepreneurs having in understanding their why?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes is not really even looking at the why. See, what happens is that everyone
Mm,
has to ask what, when, where, how often, to what extent. Um, those are questions we have to ask every morning and every day to survive. You don't actually have to ask why ever in order to survive. If that's what you're looking to do is just survive. But if you're looking to thrive or you're looking to go beyond just that, you're looking to go deeper, then that's something you have to ask yourself and you have to be willing to stick with it long enough to get the answer. And why is a very difficult question to ask. It's very uncomfortable. It's not going to answer itself. And again, it's a very, very difficult question to ask. And so a lot of leaders, they forget to ask that because they're so entrenched and they're not doing anything wrong. They're not bad people, but they just are so entrenched in what's coming at them, which are usually things related to money and schedules and very linear and quantifiable type things. as opposed to quantitative things. And so, one of the things that I always tried to look at is balance quantitative and qualitative. And so looking at the qualitative aspects versus just the quantitative, meaning that, like, so what I did when I wrote the 10 steps is the first step was qualitative, looking at the
Mm,
why. The second step was quantitative. So step 2 is counting the cost and figure out what it's going to cost to break your why and rebuild it. And then the third step is believing and making a choice, which is more qualitative. Um, and then 4 is start, which is more quantitative, and so on and so forth. So you're always looking at the balance between, you can't be just qualitative and just this idealistic person who's always talking about things that are not practical, but I can't just be practical and not have some of the creativity and idealism that keeps us alive and makes us human.
that's a very interesting point. So I was talking to one of the I think industry strategist, and he was telling me about uh, the changing nature of whys. So his point of view, Vishal, now we're living in the age of data, right? So everyone says, okay, we have to sort of throw data at the problem, we have to justify with data. And we are seeing, I think you brought up a very interesting point about being qualitative and quantitative at the same time. Because we and his point of view was that, Vishal, you know what, because businesses focus too much on quantitative nature of their aspects, many times they miss out on the qualitative. And many of the why has a very sort of engraved rooting in the culture of an organization. Why you do what you do, why someone attached to your cause, we are working on something.
Yeah.
And now suddenly everyone started shifting on, okay, how is that impacting quantitatively.
Hmm.
So when you talk to businesses, what has been your observation, like how has like the understanding of why evolved over
Yes.
last decade or so, and what has been your observation?
Well, I think nowadays one of the things that's happened that's a positive in, like, the workforce and things like that, is that there's a lot of more um, equality, understanding, and most importantly, vulnerability. So this idea of vulnerability, thanks to Brene Brown, is like cool now. So, like, everybody's down with it, which is really great because that's kind of created this idea of, like, servant leadership. I mean,
Mm,
Simon Sinek, who was kind of the first guy to really come out swinging with the why statement. His
mm,
second book, was about, I think, leaders eat last or something along those
mm,
lines.
mm,
But the idea is that, at the end of the day, the most powerful leaders are the ones that have humility and honesty. And that's really what I've learned over these last 14 years, is that's really what it comes down to. And it's uncomfortable because we think that we're supposed to be this big, strong, powerful, dominant leader, and that's how we're going to get people to do what we want them to do. But the fact is that vulnerability and really getting down in the ditches and working with people to mentor them and to teach them, as opposed to just dominate and instruct them, that's become more expected. So there's a whole new generation. Millennials get a bad rap, but one of the good things about millennials is that they're basically demanding and expecting that type of environment in order for them to work for you, and they'll work for less money just to have that culture and environment. So I think, like, you have to start looking at this stuff if you want to have retention and if you want to have people that are loyal to you. But at the end of the day, it boils down to having enough, compassion and vulnerability. And the way why has changed is that people are actually looking at that. It's not like as uh, kind of out in left field of an idea or concept in the workforce.